Hello and welcome to the Quarterly Romance Book Club. My name is Desirai and you are on my channel, Libri Labra, and I'm joined today by Chloe. Chloe, you want to take a second to introduce yourself before we get into the book?
Hello. My name is Chloe. I run the YouTube channel Brunette Bibliophile. You can also find me under that name on Goodreads, Instagram, and TikTok, and then Brunette Biblio on Twitter. Yeah.
All right, so we love to read different types of romance, but mostly kind of rom-coms, and we just wanted to be able to talk about them more, so we decided to work together to do something quarterly because adding an entire book club would have been a little bit too much. So we like to do it quarterly just to make sure we get our palate cleanser in from all the other things that we've been reading. And this month, to start off the year, we decided the first quarter rather, we decided we were going to read Love in the Time of Serial Killers by Alicia Thompson. And I think, did we figure out that she's a native Floridian? Is that accurate, the author?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So, I saw this and I've read Love in the Time of Cholera, where I assume the title came from. And I was just really excited because I was like, this sounds really funny. Basically, it's about this girl who is working on her PhD dissertation and she decides to do it on true crime. And so she's reading all these true crime things. And while all that is going on, she has to go back to her childhood home in Florida to help clean it out. And, you know, she's very much in that true crime brain. So when she gets there and, you know, this dude appears out of nowhere, she's a little spooked by it. And so the rest of the story is just like, I guess, her figuring out what the deal with this guy is and if he's actually a serial killer, and also still working on her PhD dissertation and the reason for being in Florida. Where should we start with questions? Chloe, you said you have a few notes. Do you want to touch on those just a little bit?
I have a whopping 4 bullet points because my audiobook was expiring for this book. So I read this like 2 weeks ago and I'm worried that like nothing is going to stick. So I'm going to wing it. But, you know, Love in the Time of Serial Killers, right? And, you know, thinking that the neighbor could be a serial killer. It says it right away, basically, in the synopsis that we all know he's not going to be a serial killer, basically, just by the last line of the synopsis. But I feel like she thought he was a serial killer for like way too long in this book.
Really? I was going to say I felt like she didn't think that long enough. I was kind of like hoping there had been more is he, isn't he? Like more, or just more of a mystery element to the story, which there kind of wasn't really. It was
Yeah, I
more
think you could have taken out the serial killer thing altogether and it still would have been good. Like, you know, she's obsessed with true crime. So if they had taken out the part of thinking that the neighbor is a serial killer, it still would have worked.
Yeah. I guess I just, you know, obviously the true crime was a big part of her personality because it was so much like present in her life in that moment. And it does explain like here and there, like why she latched onto that and why she's so fascinated by it. But I wish that would have transferred a bit more into her real life and not just been this side thing that she's working on and kind of obsessed with, you know, if that makes any sense. Because I do wish there had been a little bit of mystery. So, okay, you said she thought he was a serial killer for too long. I mean, it didn't seem like that long before she was hanging out at his house.
Well, you know, I also feel like the beginning of the book was a little slow for me. So maybe I'm like maybe I'm just being a butt about it.
I think.
And does your cat want to be involved
I
in the
don't know
conversation?
if that's like the dog scratching. Like sometimes he's laying against the door and he starts scratching, so it sounds like he's like pounding on the door. Because I don't think
just want
anybody
to be
else in the house would be
involved.
that rude. So hopefully that's what that is. Unless I'm living with a serial killer.
Well, you know,
Wait, let's
I think if
rewind
she
for just
truly
a
thought that
second, though. Because, okay, what were your initial thoughts on the story? And then we'll kind of jump into
so,
more spoilers things.
yes. So overall, I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. Um, I do anticipate picking up more from this author. Um, I've interacted with her a little bit on social media, um, and I'm definitely interested in seeing what else she writes. Because I think it's not going to be like it's not going to be all serial killer y. Like I think the next one is going to be a little history esque because her next one is from Cold War with Love or with Love from Cold War, one of those two. Um, so she's definitely bringing an interesting take into the romance world, and I'm interested to see what else comes out from this author. Um, and you know I'm interested. The vibes are out there.
I know that no book gets like an instant 5. It's not like they start at 5 and you start deducting things, but what for you would have made it a 5? Or maybe what didn't make it a 5, however you want to.
I think it was just like the little bit of slowness in the beginning for me. And you know, besides the fact from she's obsessed with true crime, it's not anything super fresh. So it's still a good book and I enjoyed it and I gave it 4 stars, but ultimately it's just another palate cleansing romance for me. It's not like an instant like, oh my god, I just read the Allie Hazelwood and it's 5 stars. Like I wasn't like obsessed with it, but I was definitely interested enough to keep reading and I thought it was good.
Okay, I think that's fair. I would say probably the same also, but I may not know, like, because I feel like I'm somewhere in between a 4 and a 5, like not quite a 5, maybe like a 4.25, which I never used to give like partial stars, but I'm starting to see why people do. Um, and I think it's really going to depend on how long the story stays in my brain. Um, and right now I've been thinking about it a lot, mostly because I love that it takes place in Florida. And there was a lot of just like little Florida things in there that I resonated with. Like I was telling John about, there was a line about the humidity and doors swelling up so much that you can't close them. And I know that happens every single year. I never stop to think about the fact that it was the actual humidity making that happen. So I don't know, that just like resonated with me for, some silly reason. But it was a lot of stuff like that she included that I felt, it just felt really relatable.
Yeah, I agree. Like there's definitely a lot of Florida in this book, which we are very familiar with, and I definitely think that is an interesting nod for the setting. Especially when it's like knowing all these things and like being able to visualize it. Also, I'm not sure of like I don't think it specifically says where in Florida that it's set. But you know, I can't pinpoint a lot of books set in Florida, like fiction books like this that aren't like like Miami or someplace like really hopping. But even then I can't even think of that many for that.
I can only think of one that comes to mind like immediately because so much of it was around me. And that was Paper Towns, because Paper Towns takes place in
I have not
Orlando.
read that in so many years. Maybe I should reread that. Does it really?
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
god, I
And
cannot
like
not.
I'm pretty sure they go to Winter Park High School
I need to
in the
reread
book.
that, I
So
guess.
yeah, and they talk
It's
about like
probably been like
sculptures downtown. Like there's just a lot of things that I like after I read the book, I was like, I need to see these things. And I went downtown like looking for some of the landmarks and stuff. So
I feel like it's probably been like a good like 8 years since I read that book. I remember when the movie came out. I probably read it around the same time as the movie. I don't know.
um so yeah, I think we can probably jump into more spoilery things. But continuing on this path with like Florida stuff, you said that it sounded like um
Yes. I don't want to confirm anything. Here's the thing. I don't want to confirm things because I don't want to give away my location, but it sounds like the library um, that is a frequent setting in this book sounds very familiar to a library that I am familiar with. in my area that I also grew up with. So it's just, that's what really kind of like, I think that's where my brain like solidified the setting. It's like, well, this is where we're at. And it was definitely interesting. And funny enough, like 30 minutes ago, my coworker texted me that because she had started reading it, and she's also familiar with the area that I'm talking about, and we are in agreement. That's all I can say is we're in agreement.
Yeah. What did you think about the characters overall?
So I don't know if it's because I read these two so close together or what, but I had this visualization of this character in my mind. And then for some reason, when I was reading the new Allie Hazelwood, I also visualized the same character, just with a different name. Which I don't know if it's just like generic white lady or whatever, but that's just what stuck in my brain. I think I've just read these maybe too close together. They're kind of similar and kind of not. Like, we have this character who's doing a PhD, and then in the Allie Hazelwood, the character is doing a job interview for an academia position. So it was just too very close in my mind. And one note I have here is I found this to be a simple romance with interesting quirks. And I think that just sums it all up in a sentence right there.
Now, what are you considering the interesting quirks?
The serial killer thing, and like just the true crime obsession. That's such an interesting obsession to have. I did, going back to your original question of the other characters, Sam, his name is Sam, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sam.
Yeah.
Interesting character, like not super favorite male love interest that I've ever had in a romance book. I mean, we've read so many of them. But I equate him to like the nice guy, like not boy next door kind of vibe, even though that's literally what he was. But the nice guy vibe. I liked that he was a teacher and was like helping all the kids. I really liked, this is super going into spoilers now. I really liked how he was coordinating all the kids for the flash mob, and it was so cute how like he interacts with the kids. And then the brother almost felt very young to me, but at the same time, like he was proposing to his girlfriend. But he also still had maybe it was because we're following the sister, he had that kid brother vibe. Does that make sense?
I don't remember, because I feel like she mentions their age difference. Maybe they were 6 years apart, I think she said. It's possible that she didn't mention it, but I think it was something like that.
It was a big gap.
Mm-hmm. But I think what made him seem a little bit younger was his openness and his willingness to be vulnerable. And I feel like his whole he still felt like a well fleshed out character, but I do think that his purpose was to be a juxtaposition to her, who was so closed off and so I think that may have added a little bit too.
And I also think it definitely goes to show, because each of them lived with a different parent. So It definitely goes to show the difference with like being raised and how that affects.
But it's also super interesting because according to both of them, their dad was kind of a dick. So the fact that, even despite, they picked the parent that they wanted to live with. And I don't know if she necessarily mentions regretting picking her mom, but there was definitely things about her mom that maybe surprised her, or, I think her mom made her pay her way through everything, which the dad didn't do for the son. So it's just like, it was pretty interesting how the different parents turned out different ways.
The dad seemed to have a very like hands-off parenting style, in the sense of like not very much being a parent, but also paying for life, essentially. Whereas the mom had more of the hands-on, like, I'm not going to let you do whatever you want vibe, but also like you need to make your way in the world.
Also, but now that I'm thinking about it more, there was definitely multiple mentions about her brother being in therapy and going through therapy and dealing with his trauma, which she had not. So that's probably part of it too, that he was able to, like, despite having a crappy dad, recognize like how that manifested in him and working on it in therapy. So
And that probably also relates for her commitment issues, especially towards the
definitely.
end.
So, but just to
I
touch on Sam,
understand, like, but
I was just going to say, just to touch on Sam, I felt like he was maybe a little bit too perfect. Like, I definitely liked him as a love interest. I thought that he had lots of cool interests. The stuff with like the guitars and being a teacher and being nice to kids. And he was just like also geeky and nerdy. And he seems so open to like all of her stuff, like whatever her interests were. Um, I kind of felt like he didn't have any flaws.
maybe that's part of the reason why he's not like a super memorable love interest. Is he's like a I don't know, not like
What's
a
it called?
2D character, but not
Like a Mary Sue.
I don't know. Is that what it's called? I don't know what that is.
That's what it's called when it's like a female where she's just perfect, all around perfect.
Sure, yeah, that makes sense. It's just like a I don't know, not like a super flat character, but not like a fully fleshed like 3D character. I definitely like this guy kind of goes back to see like I definitely want to see how her next book is. Like I think her next one is also a standalone. I kind of want to see, how it's developed.
And this was definitely not YA. And her next book is also adult, right?
Yeah, I think it's along the same vein of I'm just gonna look it up because I can't remember.
And I know I looked it up previously, but I can't remember if she already had an. Was this her debut? Okay.
I'm pretty sure. I feel like it was. Okay, so her next book, Goodreads lists it as just romance contemporary adult. It also says LGBT. I'm gonna read the synopsis real quick. I don't think I've actually read it yet. Oh, this one's set in Orlando. There you go.
Awesome.
Yes, the main character. This is why it's called With Love from Cold War. The main character is a bookkeeper for a place called Cold War. With Cold War, words, Cold World. Oh my gosh, have I've been reading this title
Wrong
wrong
the
the
whole
whole
time.
time. I thought it said
The Cold War, which
Cold
is why you
War.
thought it was like historical.
It says Cold World. Yeah, okay, you want to know? Now I've got to know. I wrote down she's having her launch event locally, and I wrote it down. I wonder if I wrote down Cold War.
That's funny.
I gotta look at that later. Okay. Anyway, she's a bookkeeper for a tourist attraction called Cold World, and it's in Orlando. And it sounds like it's gonna be like a holiday book. That explains the snowflakes on it.
When
Okay.
is it releasing?
August 1st.
Okay, and it's also a romance. It's contemporary adult or
Yes.
just okay.
Adult is what it says. So you should come to town to go to the launch event with me.
I mean, I'm
already taking
definitely
the day off. I'm gonna plan.
excited to meet her on the 15th of April.
Yes. Still don't know if I'm gonna be there or not. We'll find. I'm hoping I'll be there. It's looking less and less likely that I'm gonna have Taylor Swift tickets. So anyway.
What, like, I don't know. Okay. You said you did listen to the audiobook a little bit. Okay. So I know that the main character, her name is Phoebe. She obviously had a lot of trauma and dysfunction that she was working through, some grief. Um, And I understand how that would impact her, but I felt like there were a bunch of situations where her response just seemed so unwarranted. And I couldn't figure out if that was because of how the character was written or how the narrator was delivering the lines.
Do you have an example?
I don't have an example of exactly what she said, but I can like tell you the scenario where it was like, dude, are you for real? Like at this point, she's already dating Sam. They're sleeping with each other, you know, and I know they had said they would kind of take it as things come, but it was like right after the flash mob where the little kid was like, are you going to marry her?
Yes.
And so,
I know what you're talking about.
So like, I feel like she just flipped out on a level that was like, and again, I understand that she's like, you know, a little bit panicking, has some commitment issues, but some of the things that would fly out of her mouth felt like a lot. And to me, it's like, I don't know if like she was neurodivergent in some way, whether that be like, because I have ADHD and I know that sometimes when I have like a heightened sense of emotion, I definitely have some impulsivity issues with the things that come out of my mouth. And so I don't know if maybe that's what was happening or the narrator was just like over delivering some of the lines with the emotion that she was she was punching with.
I cannot give you an answer for this because I definitely, here's the thing though. From that point of that scene that you're talking about forward, and maybe a little bit before it, she was constantly like, what are we doing? I'm moving at, you know, whenever. We can't do this. We can't do this. And I'm like, can you just live in the moment?
Right.
Or like either live in the moment or just break it off. Why did it even start? Why did it start in the beginning?
Here's the other time that I was like, and again, I don't know if it was the narrator. Maybe it was like the narrator plus the fact that I was listening a little bit sped up, but it just felt like, holy shit, dude, chill out. Like at some point, I think she comes home and she couldn't find the cat. And she like went over to Sam's house and totally lost her shit. And it was just like, it was just a lot. Like, cause the narrator was like screaming and panicking and like asking all these questions and just like being like, so, and I felt like Phoebe just did that a lot throughout the book.
And, you know, speaking of commitment issues, and she got a cat. Like, she was panicking when the cat showed up, and she was like, what do I do? This isn't my cat. I can't have a cat right now. I think she just panics.
Well, yeah. I don't know who like talked her into the cat, or if she talked herself into the cat, or if it was her childhood friend.
I think it was I think it was a combination of like herself, Sam maybe a little bit, and definitely the childhood friend turned librarian.
Well, I think any pet owner will tell you that once you've named the thing, it's yours. And she immediately decided. She immediately decided to call it Lenore. So, like, you named it, dude. It belongs to you now.
I mean, maybe the freak out of the cat being missing was like one of those like first time pet owner things. Like, oh my god, did I already kill the animal? What do I do? Like, what's going on? Like, it's that responsibility thing, I think.
But like, and this goes back to Sam just being a little bit too perfect. Like, here's this girl shows up, and then like, she's kind of weird. She was just acting like really weird the whole time, like poking around, asking him questions. I just feel like she would say some really weird stuff, like some really weird, out of pocket, off the cuff, like things that are like, and not only did he handle all of that with grace, but like anytime she flipped out, he would just be like, it's okay. You know, like he didn't really have his own reactions to it. Like he just seemed so mature, taking it all in, being so patient.
Yeah.
And just like, you know, to see her as such a mess and still be like, we can figure this out. We can be together however you want. Like, we can do long distance. We can move in together. We can not move in together. I'll move across the country, whatever. Like,
Can we talk about the anxiety that I got from her deciding to spontaneously just go? She's going to Florida. She's gonna get Sam back like 2 days before she had to do her like dissertation.
I
I'm
was
like,
convinced.
that's a drive.
Besides it being a drive, I was convinced Jewel was in his bed and she was going to show up with Jewel there, and that was going to be like so devastatingly heartbreaking. I would have thrown the book at that point. That would have sucked. What was her plan? Did she even have a plan? Had he not opened the door? Had someone been there? Like, she was just like, I think I'm staying at
I don't
Sam's.
think she had a plan. Did we ever get to meet her mom? Like, even in like a phone call, or was she just mentioned in passing?
I don't remember getting to meet her mom. It felt like kind of like the adult in her life was the chick that was helping her with the dissertation, or whoever her, I don't know what it's called.
Oh, the like mentor person.
Yeah.
Yes, she was very abrupt.
And it's also unfortunate that like part of the reason that Phoebe was so anti-relationship was that she had taken literally what that woman had said and was trying to like not allow herself to have any relationship because of her dissertation stuff.
Yes. And you want to know something else? You just reminded me, because I forgot about the mentor lady in here. There's a mentor-like figure in the new Allie Hazelwood book, and I'm just making more and more comparisons at this point.
That's funny that you read those so close together and they were so similar.
Not even like super similar, but it's just like small things that I've noticed. But yeah, oh god, I can't wait for you to read it.
I am. There was a part in the story. Well, first let's like set this up a little bit. So she has this childhood friend that she had a falling out with because apparently she said something, you know, with her quirky things that she just spits out impulsively, and it was enough for her friend to be scared. So her friend had told her parents, which got her in trouble, obviously. And then they had a falling out because of that. But then at some point, you know, Abby, she's back in Florida. She's trying to be friends with this person again, who was a good friend to her. And she's like trying to review how she had originally looked at the events and maybe was thinking that maybe she overreacted, maybe they could still be friends, whatever the case was. But at some point, she's talking to her brother about saying, I love you to this friend, which like, I kind of didn't understand.
What?
Do you not
Why
remember
don't I
that?
remember this?
That's funny. So yeah, like I don't remember why like she wanted to say I love you to her friend, but her brother was like, well, why don't you just start with ILY? You know, just say, yeah, I love you. That's how, yeah.
She's like, I love you like a friend.
But like, you know, I love my friends too. And not that I've never said it, but like, I don't think I say it that often. That it just, I don't know, it felt a little strange that that was being worked in there. It might have just been to demonstrate like her issues with being vulnerable and
commitment,
expressing her feelings, all the things. But
that makes sense.
But I thought it was just a little strange at that point. What did you think of the brother's girlfriend?
I thought she was really nice. She was very like open to having some sort of relationship with Phoebe, even though Phoebe had literally no idea who she was until they met. And I kind of like how towards the end when she was like talking to her brother after she had left again, and her brother, what was her brother's name? Do we have a name?
Connor?
I can't remember. Connor. Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Now I just saw it in the epilogue too. I think it was Connor though. Yeah, it's Connor. So when they were talking on the phone, and he said something about Sam. Sam was with whoever it was again.
Right.
And Shawnee's in the background, like, you shouldn't have told her that. Like, I thought that was great. Like, she was a supportive sister-in-law, and I was here for it.
I think she was like obviously a good partner for Connor and to like welcome into the family. I do think though that she was like the least fleshed out character out of everybody in the story.
Yeah.
Even though
she was like a super side character.
Yeah. She's like mentioned a lot because Connor was so obsessed with, figuring out how he was going to propose to her and everything. What I thought was interesting though was that like, they end up using the flash mob for the proposal, but I swear at some point she had said absolutely no flash mob. Like even before it was like brought up, she was like, no, that's ridiculous, no flash mob, I'm not participating in that. And then that ends up being what happened.
Phoebe or Shawnee?
It was Phoebe that had said that. I
think Phoebe was, I don't think she wanted to like be dancing, like participating in that way. But everything else is fair game, I guess.
And it was kind of hilarious that like they didn't get to pick the song. It was just like, well, I've got these kids and I've already taught them how to dance to this one song. So this is what you get.
Which I kind of want to listen to that song now.
You've heard it though, right?
No, what was the song again?
Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba.
What?
There's no way you've never heard Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba.
I probably have and just don't know it. Hold on.
That's so funny. You should, is Will home? You should ask him to sing it. Just say Will.
He probably won't.
No, he may not, but if you say, do you know Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba? I'm sure he'll respond and be like, yes.
Okay, okay, let's find out. Oh, I know exactly what song you're talking about. Well, yeah. Okay, I know what you're talking about. Okay. That's all. That makes more sense now.
Yeah.
See, but he did some of the lyrics. I'm like, oh, I know that. Okay. All right.
I figured
I am familiar. Okay. So then yes, I love that I've got these kids. They know this song. That's all I got. I'm hip with it.
So Phoebe and Connor as kids, they didn't spend too much time together, but they do have memories of playing Crash Bandicoot together. And so that was something that was like that was so much a part of their relationship that she ended up incorporating references. This is funny because I thought about your wedding a lot during this part for two reasons. One, because she incorporated Crash Bandicoot references into the speech that she gave. And also because she was his best man and Will had his sister be his best man woman. So that made me think of your wedding also. But like, I don't know how much was caught, but Kat and I tried to stick like romance references into your speech that we gave. Like romance readers.
I want.
Good.
Be honest with me. Was that speech like? Were you winging it, or did you make like a general like you're going to talk about this? I'm going to talk about this.
What? Wait, why? I thought we did awesome.
No, you did a great job, but I was only asking because I was like, I feel like everybody except for you guys and my mom like had like note cards or something, and I'm like, are they just like going for it? Because I'm down for it.
So we never actually physically wrote anything down, but we definitely did multiple run-throughs of what we wanted to say.
Aww.
So, and so yeah. And we just figured it would sound more natural if we didn't have like an exact script. So
I love how you were like, "Can we use a PowerPoint?" And I'm like, "No."
I was only teasing you.
You can use your words.
I was just teasing you when I said that.
And I do see, I had flipped back to the epilogue, and I do see where it says the Crash Bandicoot references.
Okay, so
Sam, you nailed it. Although I didn't understand any of the Crash Bandicoot references.
So that was leading up to a question. So my question was, is there any like specific media that you remember? I know you don't have siblings, or at least I don't think you have siblings.
No.
That maybe helped connect you to a family member, whether it was memories of your dad or your mom, or like some kind of piece of media that you shared together.
What do you mean?
Okay.
Like if something I hear or see now reminds me of somebody?
Yeah, but maybe like something you did that maybe there's like a nostalgia attached to it.
I mean,
like I can give you
there's no like specific memory. There's no like specific memory, but my dad would listen to Jimmy Buffett, and I only knew like 3 songs. I still only know like 3 songs. And when we got back from our cruise, I was playing them and singing them, everything. And it brings back memories like that, but like no specific memory.
Okay. For me and my brother definitely used to play video games a lot, but there was one video game series in particular that I have like tons of memories attached to, and he and I used to stay up super late playing Resident Evil. And so it's pretty wild because at some point we were like totally skipping. We were all in college, but we were skipping classes because we were staying up so late playing Resident Evil that eventually we were like, we might have to just like withdraw this semester. So there was one day where we went to each person's college with the other person to go withdraw for that semester so that we can then spend the rest of the semester playing Resident Evil. Which is like absolutely ridiculous, but that 100% happened.
Yes, because I understand that you were in college, but Desirai, all the money that was wasted.
It wasn't that much.
It's probably it's probably like gone up like 10 times to now's money with how ridiculously expensive everything is.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure my semester was like 1,250.
Each of my semesters was like double that.
So, but yeah, so that will forever be like Resident Evil will forever be a thing that reminds me of my brother.
Like how Halo is yours and John's thing.
Yes. The other question that I had was, obviously this cat sneaks into her house and she names it and decides to keep it. If there were an animal to like run into your house, what animal would it be that you would be willing to keep? Would it be a cat? Would it be a dog? Would it be a bird? I mean, there's not like a ton of options, but
I hate cats. So, if it was a dog, I would want to keep it, but Will doesn't want any pets. So it would probably have to go to my mom's house. There was one time, actually, same thing with a bird. I don't want a bird either. That would also have to go to my mom's house.
I was going to say, or a vet. Weren't there birds at your mom's house?
My mom has 2 birds. She has all 3. She has a bird, or 2 birds. She has 3 dogs and a cat.
Is the cat new?
No, we've had the cat since she was like 8 weeks old. So, and that was, I don't know how old I was. It's been years. Probably not like a decade yet, but like getting up there.
Because I remember you having dogs when I came over, but I didn't remember a cat.
Actually, might be more than a decade now. Because I'm 25. I feel like we definitely had. Oh no, I remember. I have a specific memory. I was in 8th grade, so I was probably like, it's probably been like 12 years then. Not 12 years. Anyway, there was one time in the time that Will and I have lived together that my grandma gave me a plant, like some sort of cactus, succulent, something. I don't know. And I brought it home. And Will was at work that day, and he comes home and he goes, "Hey, so right?" I was like, "Hey, so I had to go to my mom's to get a kennel because something I found something, and it came home with me." And he can't see me yet, but he's at the bottom of the steps. He's like, "Oh no!" He's like, "No, no, 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 no." And I'm at the top of the steps, like, because our steps come up and then there's a corner, so I'm at the top of the steps holding this plant. And he comes up the steps, and I'm like, "Meet Ferdinand." But he like dead ass thought I had like a dog or something, because it's totally believable that I could go to my mom and get a kennel.
Yeah, we have a lot of strays outside that we feed and talk to and have named.
There's somebody I follow on Instagram who, in her stories, like a couple months ago, she was posting that this cat just showed up on her patio and like wouldn't leave. So she started calling him Patio Cat. And like after a couple of weeks, they were able to like not trap him, but trap him to take him to a vet to get him scanned. And he didn't have anybody. Didn't have a chip. Nobody was like answering any like found cat anything. So they kept him, and they had to keep him outside though until they were able to take him back to the vet to get him like evaluated and all the shots, because they had another cat and they wanted to keep him separate in case there was anything wrong. And then the patio cat ended up having like an issue with one of the legs, and there were like 2 choices in surgery, but they ended up having to get it like amputated. So now I've been following this journey of this cat that has now come into their home. This cat that has now come into their home, and they named him because he has a little mustache. They named him Freddie Mercury, but also still call him Patio Cat.
That's funny.
And I'm just like so invested in this story for some reason.
Yeah, one of my cats showed up on my porch one day, and he's just a gorgeous, huge, long-haired gray cat. And every day for like 2 weeks, we would step outside and he would be right there. And then I was like, "Kitty, where did you come from? Go back home." Like, but then like as the days were going by, every time we try to go inside, he would try to rush into the house with us. And eventually we're like, "Okay, I guess you've adopted us." And we just took him to the vet and kept him.
So, last animal story because this is fresh in my head. So my mom's cat is an indoor-outdoor cat. And she's always been an indoor-outdoor cat, like since she was old enough. And my mom was telling me yesterday that there's this window that looks into the kitchen. It's like low to the ground, and she'll sit on the sill on the outside. And one day my mom said she was meowing there. Normally, if she wants to come in, she'll come around to the sliding glass door, like she knows how to find it and everything. But she came up to the window and was meowing there to come in. So my mom just let her in through the window, because why not? And now that is the preferred method. In fact, it's the only method now. Like, she won't go to the sliding glass door anymore. She will only go to this
the window.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, since we didn't touch on it, what did you think about the spicy scenes in this book?
I don't remember them very much. I imagine they were good in the moment, but right now they're not very memorable.
I feel like there was quite a few of them, and I think we talked about this in like another book club, I think we might have been talking about like the undertaking of Heart and Mercy, how you know, a lot of times in stories there's just like one full chapter where it's all about them getting together and having sex. But this was definitely like more than that, which is nice. I think it was pretty like um organic, let's say, in regards to like her going over to his house and them hanging out and things happening. And so things happened at his house, at her house. So I think it was a few times that they got together. And it was I don't remember having any objections. I know I'm like Kat, where like when it gets too descriptive and too focused on the physical aspect of it. When it's too much about the physical aspect of it versus like the emotional aspect of it, I know it becomes a little bit cringy for us, but I don't remember. Although I do remember I was listening to the audiobook at one point and I was like, I need to turn this down. Because I was like, somebody's gonna hear that I'm listening to this right now. But I thought it was pretty good, and I still think he's a pretty awesome love interest.
So this is kind of a sidebar about the book, though. I don't know about you, but this is going to sound really bad. I'm not friendly with neighbors. Like not in the I'm not nice, but it's not like I don't want to interact with you. Like I just want my space. So the scene in the beginning where her and like the brother or whatever, they go over to his house while he's having a party, I would felt so awkward. Like, you're basically just crashing this retirement party. I would have been like, no, thank you. I'm going home.
Well, I think what's interesting though is that they weren't complete strangers though, because it was mentioned at some point that he was at their dad's funeral. So because Connor had lived across the street, I don't know. I just know that he was at their dad's funeral. So
was she at the funeral? I don't remember her.
Yeah, she was.
Ah, jeez, can't. I don't know.
But I don't think they highlighted that too much. I just remember them mentioning, or he mentions to her, I saw you at the funeral. I'm so sorry for your loss, yada, yada, yada.
But still, like, I wouldn't want to, like, he's still a virtual stranger to him. I'm like, I'm not going to crash your party. I'm going to go home.
I remember a decent amount of the book because it's pretty fresh in my brain, but like the circumstances for why they went over there, I don't remember, other than her being like, let's go investigate.
Oh, I found it. Okay. That worked out that I found it that fast. Okay, so they're talking about their goldfish living at the house, and she doesn't want that. Excuse me. I don't know. Oh wait, hold on. Now it says, I mean, would I go to a serial killer's house party? But why is it happening?
And he just let them in. They just showed up, and he was like, "Hey, I'm having a party. Come in."
In chapter 6, the first line is, 5 minutes later, all three of us were standing on Sam's doorstep, and they rang the doorbell asking if it's a themed party. They had a bag of Kit Kats. Well, okay, so there's a line here that says, well, what did he say when he invited you? So I'm like, where did he invite her? Trying to find it. Now she's talking to her mentor, her advisor. I don't know. Supposedly Sam invited her. I
guess if he invited her, that's a little bit different.
I guess he was just being polite, because I'm like, if I'm hosting a retirement party with all these people that I work with, and then there's my random neighbor,
I mean,
it's like you're not going to know anybody. So it's like, what's the point?
it was his random neighbor, but also I think he knew pretty immediately, probably at the funeral, that he thought she was attractive and he liked her.
That's true. I think it's like a he falls first situation.
Yeah. Yeah. Because like when she moved in and she showed up that night, he was just there. Like, did he just
Yeah, that was kind of
he
weird.
was barefoot?
Wasn't he like in, because she arrived in the middle of the night, wasn't he
Right.
like in his like garage, like working on the guitars, or he worked on, maybe it was guitars.
I don't know. I just remember the barefoot.
There was an explanation about that. I remember there being some sort of explanation. I'm still trying to find where he invited
She was
her. But
super mean to him. I mean, I get it. Like,
yeah, she had a lot of issues. Probably needs therapy.
I mean, I think that's definitely what they were saying.
Let's see. Apparently, Connor had been only 6 when their parents divorced.
Or maybe that's where I got the 6 from.
I don't know.
Well,
oh, and now I just lost the page I was on. Well, yeah, I don't know.
Did you want to do final thoughts?
Sure. Sorry, I'm still just like glancing to see if I see it. Now we're back to the Hank the goldfish thing. This book, I enjoyed it. I give it 4 stars. I think it's interesting that it has the serial killer's twist, but ultimately I think it's just the main character having a obsession with true crime, which is still an interesting quirk. Overall, it was a good romance, but it's not like an all-time favorite, like I have to recommend it kind of thing, or I have to reread it. But I am glad that I enjoyed it. Alicia Thompson is definitely an author that is on my radar. Definitely interested in reading her next book, especially since she's writing books set in Florida, in places that I'm familiar with, which I find to be super interesting. Yeah, I'm excited to see what else this author puts out in the future. But 4 stars for this one.
So I think I'm like a 4.25. I really liked it. I loved the writing. I loved the way she was incorporating a lot of pop culture references and the way the character would describe things. She was obviously dealing with a lot, so there's notes of grief in here, and commitment issues and the loss of a parent, and just a lot of stuff. But I definitely like the writing. I loved that it took place in Florida, and I'm very much looking forward to her next book. And speaking of next books, in our second quarter, we're going to be reading Priest by Sierra Simone, and I will let you describe the book.
2 words.
Also, this is quite a jump, actually. I feel like, from rom-com to...
I know, right? 3 words. Priest and a stripper. That's all I know. That's all I know. And you want to know something? I am still cracking up about the time we were at your Barnes & Noble, and I saw this book, and one of the staff had written a label underneath it that said, "I see God in this Chili's tonight." I still laugh at that. And this is the first in a series, apparently. There's like 3.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited. I want to know what's going to go on.
So
I'm pretty sure, I don't know if it was this book or another book about a priest, but there was like a tagline where it was like, "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned, and I would do it again."
It may have been that one. I don't know. It might have been a review or something. But yes, so this is very smutty.
We're taking a nosedive, basically.
So we'll see. Like I was
also,
the cover is very pretty. I think that cover is very nice, and I think I would be much more willing to read that on the train than the original cover.
Exactly. I'm so excited.
So yeah, it should be fun. I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about.
Yes.
There are things I already know about. I've seen quite a few reviews, so
I
I'm
don't know
excited
anything other
about
than what I just told you.
I'm excited about the forbiddenness of the story. I'm probably not going to love the smuttiness just because I don't usually read a lot of smutty things, but we'll see.
It's priest, then there's sinner, and then saint is the last one. And then there's a
And then there's
novella
Midnight
called
Mass.
Midnight Mass. He's a priest, and here is his confession.
Oh my.
I am
So,
ready.
we have scheduled that for May what was that?
That's
May
7th?
I think that's
whatever
what
the first Sunday in May is.
May 7th at 6 p.m. on my channel. So if you've made it this far, that is what we're reading. You have an entire quarter to get to it, and then we'll be back in May to discuss it.
Can't believe we're already going, like March is the last month of quarter 1.
Mm-hmm.
I can't, the first 2, it's March. The first 2 months just like, pew.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like the older you get, the faster it goes. It's crazy. Crazy. Well, thanks to whoever is watching this after the fact, and I hope you'll join us next quarter, and have a wonderful evening. Bye.